It's so good to welcome Patricia to the stage. Patricia Jehle is currently a lecturer at the University of Applied Sciences and Arts in northwestern Switzerland. Welcome, Patricia. She's a certified spiritual director and a certified business coach and supervisor. She has had her own business since 2015, focuses on startups, real networking, and helping people reach their goals, which are some of her passions. Welcome to the stage, Patricia. How are you doing today?
Doing well, thank you. It's an hour later here, so the sun is going down, and it's the end of the day for me.
I think the sun's going down here as well.
Oh dear.
So you're tuning in from Switzerland?
Yes.
Okay. Any snow on the ground?
A dusting. We've had sun for the day, so I don't know if it will stay anymore. I don't know what the temperature is there, but it's hovering around 0 here. Okay.
Well, we had to start with some weather. We as British, really want to find out about the weather. But Patricia, it's really good to see you. Thanks for being here, and and for spending some time with us. Really looking forward to just picking your brains today. This session is interview with an entrepreneur coach, which is what you are and who you are. I'd love to start off, Patricia, in terms of defining entrepreneur, the terms entrepreneur and coach. Could we start there? What do we mean by entrepreneur?
Entrepreneur is a fuzzy term. But if you go to, for example, the Oxford Dictionary, you can look up and it will say something like taking financial risks in the hope of profit. If you go on Wikipedia, it adds something to the effect of creating value. And I like to put those two together because I think that for most entrepreneurs, I think this is what Carlos said before. I loved his interview, by the way. I hope I don't repeat too much of what people have already said today, but yeah, people want to do good. They want to create value and they want to start something new. Kind of what it's not is somebody who has a franchise or starts a franchise. That's not really entrepreneurial because it's not new. It's not creative. It's repeating something that someone else has done. So I guess that's what an entrepreneur is. Okay,
fabulous. And what about coach? You're a coach. How do we define coach? Because even in my previous conversation, we sort of blurred the lines between mentor and coach. And I know it's used, sometimes these terms are used interchangeably. What do you mean by coach?
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you what I think a mentor is first. A mentor is somebody who's been there already. A coach is, and this is really interesting because Carlos says that you find your answers your way, and that's what a good coach does. A good coach helps the person, the client, whatever you want to call them, find their answers to their questions with their resources by asking questions, by poking them, by doing several different things. But yeah, mostly asking questions. And a business coach usually is reflective for the business. Now, it could be a personal situation in the business, like not dealing well with your employees, or it could be something more strategy oriented. I mean, it can be anything as a business coach. And what Carlos said about life coaching is true. Life coaching is often during a crisis. And sometimes I do that because, sometimes business people come and they say they want business coaching, but in the end, what they really want is life coaching. But that's a different story.
Okay, so that's really helpful just to define what we're talking about here, because you are an entrepreneur coach.
Yes.
And I'd love you to sort of share a little bit about what that looks like. What does it mean, and why does it energize you?
Okay. Every process, no matter what kind of coaching it is different. And so what it looks like is sort of at the beginning, you have what you would talk about as the context and the content and the question and the goal. And all of those could be different depending on the situation. and then you move on and you have a series of steps, just like you would with a strategy. You have a strategy, but it depends on the situation itself. And so you do ask a lot of questions, especially at the beginning and also as they go on. And between each session, there should be a space. You don't meet every day, and you shouldn't probably meet every week. Maybe you meet twice a month, or maybe you meet once a month. And those interstices, the in-betweens, are actually where a lot of the work actually happens, because it's the reflection of what happens in the session, and then maybe applying your action plan that brings things forward. And so it really depends. I forgot to say something that coaching is not, and coaching is not consulting. So what that means is I don't need to know when my client extrudes recycled plastic boards. I don't need to know more than the basics about extrusion and plastic and recycling. I don't need to know the chemistry. I don't need to know the biochemistry or whatever is involved. And so that's really good, because I don't know that.
So that's really, really helpful, Tricia. And okay, so I'm just thinking, out of all of that, what is it that energizes you about what you do? Why did you get into it in the first place? Why do you're obviously clearly passionate about this. What is it that grabs you?
I'm very passionate about startups and about entrepreneurial activity in general. And I guess the thing that really is cool is the fact that everything is created from nothing, and that is like what God is like. It's somehow our imago Dei. I don't speak Latin, but our God in us is being creative. And it doesn't matter if they're a Christian or not, because everybody has this part of them. They're created this way, and they make something, and then it's a new thing. And that also reflects the end of the Bible, see, I'm making all things new. And then on the other side, if you want to be really practical and pragmatic, every startup that succeeds, unless it's just a little cottage industry, is going to produce jobs, and jobs helps the local economy. And that's also very positive, and that's very good. New jobs are what we need. Stable jobs, that's what the world, well, it's not only what the world needs, but at this moment with COVID and everything, it's a very good thing. Yeah. So
Patricia, we can get into the details, and I'm looking forward to it, but just thinking big, slightly broader picture about entrepreneurship. It's very can be very fashionable in certain circles, and sort of the hustle and grind culture. I'm just wondering what of entrepreneurialism and entrepreneurship in today's culture should, as Christians, we be mindful of and careful of, but also on the flip side, what's great in there? What should we embrace? And you've mentioned a couple already, but just, is there anything else that you wanted to add to that?
I was listening to the sustainability talk at lunchtime, and at least for me, it was lunchtime, and it reminded me of a lot of things that we need to avoid. And I think the term biggering is one of the things we need to be careful of. I think it's good to scale, but to scale just so that it grows is maybe not necessarily what you want. There are some companies that have to grow just to survive. You don't want to be in that little red, on the red line for very long. You want to try to get above that after 3 to 5 years if possible. And so, you don't want that, but at the same time, just growth for growth's purposes, buying for just buying's purposes, maybe is a good way to put it. Another thing is the, oh gosh, what is it? The thing about, now I've lost it. I'll think about it later. But what you need to embrace.
Yeah, we can come back to it. Yeah.
Yeah. What you need to embrace are the good things. You need to embrace the creativity. You need to embrace the humanity of things, that the 3 bottom line parts. Yeah. The people, the world, and then money. You need to be like that. The companies that I support are like that. I usually don't take on companies that are not like that, probably because I am a Christian. I'm not really interested in multi-million-dollar things, though there are really good Christians doing this, and maybe you can name one. Right now I can't think of one, but I'm sure there are. Yeah, but what you don't want is the whole rah me stuff, because a lot of entrepreneurs, especially with social media, tend to be that way, and I suppose that's what you don't want. You want, as a Christian, to be humble. I think I heard that several times today, and one of my favorite books is called The Humble. Oh no. It's by Edgar Sheen, and it's The Humble Consultant or The Humble Helper or something like that. And it's a most wonderful book because it is about giving the client their space and their listening. Yeah. You listen, they talk.
It's great stuff. Patricia, just love to know, are there particular passages in the Bible that stand out to you when it comes to entrepreneurship, and that really speak to you about this, where God might be at work in entrepreneurship? Where is it in the Bible that you see, particularly where God's speaking to you about entrepreneurship?
Personally, I think that God is the ultimate entrepreneur, and you can see that in Genesis 1-3 and in John 1 and in Revelation. And we could spend the rest of the time talking about that. But also, from very early on, the patriarchs were pretty entrepreneurial, sometimes with more or less ethical ways about them. But Jacob, Joseph, Noah, women, Ruth, and Naomi, but more Ruth. And then in the New Testament, certainly Paul, probably Philip, most of the disciples, especially when you look at that section where they name deacons. I mean, that whole church building thing is entrepreneurial. The whole book of Acts, is totally entrepreneurial. They have no clue what they're doing. They're learning by doing. They're trying things out. They're listening to God. It's all new. Yeah.
Would you say that's a common feature for entrepreneurs, that they're sort of, they're kind of making it up as they go? There are questions that they don't even know they should be asking yet. Is that a sort of common feature?
I think with most entrepreneurs, unless they're serial entrepreneurs or they've been a CEO or something of a company before, yes, I think so. And that's why I say every coaching session is different. It depends on the history of the person. And yeah, learning by doing. This whole idea of Scrum and being agile, that's totally entrepreneurial. And that's kind of the way the church is heading, I hope.
Tell us a bit more about that. What do you mean by Scrum and agile?
Okay. How to do this without being too complicated. Okay, Scrum is where you have runs and you have trials, and you try this thing out, and either it works or it doesn't. And if it works, then you continue, and maybe you enhance it. If it doesn't work, you try something else out. I guess that's the easiest way to explain it without being too technical. And that's kind of, I think, at least with our church, with going online, for example, with COVID, that's exactly what we did. We're still really bad at certain things. Our audio is terrible online, but that's what you do. It's Scrum. It's like you try this, and if it works, okay, then how can we make it better? If it doesn't work, let's try something else. Yeah.
Patricia, just thinking, you mentioned about churches there. What could we do to release entrepreneurs more in our churches? I'm particularly drawn to that passage, Ephesians 4. The different gifts, and they're just a few of the gifts and offices that are referenced in the Bible, but just Ephesians 4: apostles, prophets, pastors, evangelists, teachers. The apostles and prophets are, typically the more sort of taking newer ground and leading the church into newer places and pioneering new stuff. What can we do to encourage the pioneers amongst us?
That's a really good question. This morning there was a talk on leadership and how structures and culture and the organization needs to maybe let go. And then later there was a question, the statement, something about a family lets the younger generation have what they want. For example, when they want to watch a movie. And I think all of those things need to be applied. I think we need to be able to give up that phrase, we've always done it that way. And in a business, that's the death dirge of a business, is we've always done it that way. IBM almost died because they said that. We can't do that as a church. We have to let go. And that's scary. I'm now old. In my church, I'm the old person. I used to be the young upstart. That's why I say this way. And you have to let go of your traditions, even if the tradition is to sing, shine, Jesus, shine. I don't know. So I was thinking of something old, okay, from my point of view, and very old for my children who don't know when it was first sung and why. And so, yeah, we have to be able to give up and let go, but it's really hard. You have to also set up a system that looks for these people, because a lot of these prophets are introverts. Think Old Testament prophets. Were they extroverted? No, they tried to hide in places and they didn't want to talk, and they, you have to look for them, and you have to have a system to find them, because they're not going to say much unless they have that platform. And in a lot of churches, they don't. And so the prophets, the creatives, it's the same thing. That's maybe easier in some ways, because you can set up some worship services that are specifically for dancers or for artists or for poetry or for et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, it's a good question. I've been thinking about that ever since, I saw that question and I thought, oh, this is a good question, because it's something I love. I love creatives. I love prophets. I think that they need to be heard. Yeah.
Patricia, you spend a lot of time with entrepreneurs and you're helping entrepreneurs. And I just wondered, what are some of the common themes that you see across those conversations? Are there particular challenges or things that they are grappling with and that you often find yourself, talking about with them? Are there common themes that you have discerned or recognized?
Carlos mentioned being a marriage counselor. I think work-life balance will be a problem. And one of the things that you come across is, you often, this is not always true, but often younger people start companies about the time they start families. And both those things are major transitions. And any major transition causes stress. It's not necessarily bad, it just does. It's just part of life. And when stress, and then add long working hours. So you've got maybe three things. And when the stress gets to a certain level, you could come into the red level of burnout. And so often there is also that question. And I have had, burnout prophylactic sessions, but I've also had sessions where it was clear the person was in burnout. Also relational issues. How do I deal with my children when I am in basically burnout and I come home and they're noisy because they're children? And I understand that mentally, but emotionally and physically, I can't deal with it. Those are all real issues. If you start a company and you're my age, it's a lot easier in some ways because you don't have those issues, but then you have the issue of wanting to go to bed at 10 o'clock at night, which is not a possibility. I have a dear friend who, I don't know how late she stays up, but she lives in Minnesota where I'm from. And when I get up in the morning, she writes, we're chatting, but that means it's like 1 or 2 in the morning. Oh, I haven't gone to bed yet, So.
Patricia, think about work-life balance. Have you, do you offer or have any advice on people that are maybe struggling right now with work-life balance? Maybe they're on the edge of burnout. What would you say to someone in that situation?
That's one of the things coaches usually don't do, is tell them what to do, but you do ask them what has worked so far. For example, I have a client who actually schedules a monthly weekend away from his family. It's the only thing that brings him back into the green level at the moment. It's not recommended for a long term, but it is what works for him. Another person might be able to go swimming every day after work. Often the best thing, so one of the things I have learned from research is that if you can have a break where you can get rid of the stress from the day before you enter your family or before you go out for dinner or wherever you're going to do, and have a way to get rid of that stress. And one of the best ways to get rid of that stress is to exercise. I mean, they say 20 minutes of hard exercise is all you need for most people. If you can't do that, maybe you can sing or shout and jump up and down and dance, or it depends on the person. I mean, these are all things that different people respond to. But they say, research says 20 minutes of hard exercise is usually what you need. Now, not everybody can do that, and not everybody can in the sense of having the space and time, but other people physically can't do that, and then they have to find something else.
Just thinking about coaching more generally, you mentioned just now that you don't offer advice as a coach and you ask questions. I mean, do you find that a challenge? Because I'd want to be off giving the advice. I feel like I know the answer, but it's obviously something that coaches don't do and won't do because of the framework that they're working to. And I just wondered if you could give us an insight into the framework that you use when you're coaching.
Okay, so first I need to tell you that we're not supposed to, but that we still do it. And sometimes if I'm asked for my opinion, I will give it. I think that's okay. But I don't tell them, oh, well, I think you should. The framework is a system of inquiry, and there are a lot of different kinds of questions, not just open versus closed questions, but questions that look at systems, questions that reframe, questions that provoke. So I could say, so what you're telling me is that, let me think of something, that sleeping 4 hours a night is okay for you all the time. Now, what I've done is I've made it stronger, probably, because you say, oh, well, I can live with 4 hours of sleep. And so what I hear you saying is, and is this true? And then they go, well, no, probably for the long term, it's not sustainable or something. Well, then what would be sustainable? And then what would be the best thing? And then is that the best thing, or what would be better than that thing? You know, and you can keep going forever. I mean, not really, but you could.
Do you have a particular framework that you take people through in your coaching interactions?
Some people do, but I don't. I go with what the client first brings at the first meeting and is sort of the contract, but I also go with what has happened in the in-between and what they want to talk about that day. So I might have some idea of what I might do and have brought something with me, but often it doesn't work and we go somewhere else. Yeah.
You talk, would a hope at the end of each session be for something for the client to work on, to take away, like a next steps, or not really?
It can be. Sometimes it's more of a question. So often with a lot of clients, doing is really, really, really important. So often, for example, I might have a question like, what is enough? When is it enough? What does enough look like for this week or this month? So I can go to bed. Yeah. You know, something like that. Because if I just say, well, read this book, often they don't have time, or listen to this podcast, they might have time, but they might forget. But when you have one question that's strong and really addressing their situation right then, that might be the best thing to do.
It's wonderful. It really is. And we're grateful to you, Patricia. Thank you so much. This is Patricia Jehle,
for having
entrepreneur coach. Yes, thank you. And we'll see you soon, Patricia.
Bless you.
Bless you too. God bless. Everyone, this is we're coming to the end of this afternoon's session. And thank you so much for tuning in, engaging, commenting, liking, and posting emojis. Love to see a bit more of that, by the way. Putting stuff on socials. Don't forget to continue to use the hashtag SN22Live. Just means that we can keep the word going about things. We're going to be back tonight. Again, 2 streams. We have 2 streams on the go, on stream 1 and stream 2. And in the evening, stream 1, we're going to have Yemi Adedeji speaking about leaders that create leaders. Then we have Gordon Eichhorst, who's going to be talking about navigating growth barriers. And then on this stream, on stream 2, we're going to have mission, vision, values, a discussion we're going to have, and then another session after that called Creating a Culture of Innovation. I'm really looking forward to coming back and connecting with you then. But in the meantime, do hope you can get a bit of downtime, a bit of rest, maybe some food as well. But God bless you. We'll see you at 7 o'clock on here, and 7:30 on stream 1. So stream 1, 7:30, stream 2, this stream, 7 o'clock. God bless. We'll see you soon.